No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of idols. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of idols.
Welcome back to Summoner's Rift. Our first match of the day features Bilibili Gaming and everyone's favorite team in China, Victory 5. V5 is looking to continue their surprising start to the season, but BLG isn't going down without a fight. V5 started up Dragon and BLG is looking to collapse. Bard catches out Nautilus, and as the Dragon falls, Nautilus falls. But Zinmo wants some mo. Look into the bot lane, where Sam D is caught with his pants on the ground. Looking limp there, bud. At the 25-minute mark, BLG is invading the enemy jungle and looking for a fight. Bard hits Nautilus with his ult again, and Bilibili Gaming collapses, eventually finding Syndra. Maokai and Renekton both TP in, and the Gator is starting to look a lot like that new pair of shoes. Bilibili Gaming takes down Baron, and takes down Game 1. In Game 2, both teams move up to fight at Rift. Bilibili Gaming has the better position, and Renekton is flanking as V5 moves forward. Wings flashes forward, and Renekton flies in first. Thresh falls quickly, but V5 is collapsing. Best 16 is doing his best death impersonation, and ADD must have seen a butterfly because that boy is distracted, quickly dying as well. V5 is alive, and we're headed to a Game 3 after a Game 2 come. Don't do it. Pykel, don't do it. We're sick of your shit, man. Don't do it. Don't do what?
Don't call it a comeback. V5 been here for years. Sam D rocking his peers. Nidalee chucking spears. Making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go pew pew. PP God overpowering. Diving competition under towers in. Winning once again. V5 is the best in China, man.
Alright, are you done? Did you get that off your chest? Can we go back to the clips now? Can we just do this like normal now? Or you got some more songs you want to sing? In our second match of the day, JDG and RNG face off in a highly anticipated contest. Mostly anticipated because of the hour-long delay, but who's counting? RNG takes down Rift, but JDG is looking for a fight. RNG takes Rift and Xiaohu blast cones over the wall but whiffs his ultimate. Lu Mao says Lamau, and Zoom speeds over to help finish off another kill. With a big early lead, JDG wins Game 1 easily. Now in Game 2, RNG and JDG are fighting in the mid lane. Xiaohu and Zoom both die, and the pings start to go down onto Baron. JDG wants to end this one quick, and they're definitely confident after their easy Game 1 victory. But RNG suspects something is up, and starts making their way towards the Baron pit. JDG starts up Baron with Graves and Ashe, but the Monkey King spots them, drops a ward and is looking for an engage. XLB shows up, and Wukong goes in, spinning to win. But he dies first. Rek'Sai dies, but Betty is hopping off. Xiao, who do you think you are, finally gets there, and gets his revenge, halting Azir and sending him to an early Graves. We're headed to Game 3. We're at the 14-minute mark. Ming pings and flashes in for Loken under the tower. The trade goes 1 for 1. Next up is the Dragon Soul fight. RNG has the better positioning and starts up Dragon Soul. JDG TP's in and looks to contest. They move into the river, but it looks like Ming is pinging forward again. Looks to move up and takes out Thresh. RNG falls back onto the dragon. This could be Dragon Soul. Graves ults, but cannot steal away the Dragon Soul. Nidalee takes down Dragon Soul. Betty and Xiaohu take out Loken once again, and we rejoin the action in JDG's base. The minions are collapsing on the towers and Taric ultimates. Everyone is invulnerable and dives under the towers. But do they have enough damage? One tower falls. Their health bars are low. 2 towers fall. Hit the Nexus! Hit the Nexus! RNG, hit the Nexus! Stop trying to get kills! Just hit the Nexus and end the game! End the game! Yes! RNG! With their royal never-give-up attitude, with a huge upset victory over the Spring Split champions, JDG. Speaking of huge upsets, there's no way the newly promoted Team Dynamics can take down KT Rolster, right? Wait, where's Smeb and Kuro? So-Won and Yukao. So you're saying you want to lose? Fine. KT Rolster is on Dragon, but their poor decision-making is instantly clear, and Team Dynamics collapses onto J4 in the Dragon Pit. Corki packages in and Rich is Rich, after killing multiple KT Rolster losers. After 41 minutes of a close match, KT is down 6,000 gold and Dynamics has Dragon Soul, but Elder Dragon could turn the tide. Corki packages in once again, and Senna ults as Jace goes to pound town on Dead Ash. Corki is on fire! Doing almost 8,000 damage in a single team fight. Team Dynamics wins game 1. You know you can't spell KT Rolster without L-O-S-E-R. Team Dynamics is making a risky call on Baron. KT Rolster moves through the jungle to contest and successfully forces them to retreat. But KT Rolster says anything you can do, we can do worse. They start up Baron in plain sight of Team Dynamics. Bold move, KT, let's see if it pays off for you. Sounds like a Bono head play if you ask me. Aphelios moves forward and damn, Aphelios is big. Rich and Dynamics are rich, bitch! And this game is beyond redemption. Googer Gaga says, "Who's your daddy?" as Kuzan in the squad finish off the shocking sweep, rolling over KT Rolster. In the final match of the day, we have Hanwha Life taking on the team formerly known as APK Prince, who has already taken down Dragon Soul. Haru is looking for a flank and finds Mickey, insecting him into his team. But Trundle and Flawless secure the Elder Dragon, and it's no secret once you give up Elder, your ass is getting blown up. Prince wins game 1, but in game 2, Prince is on the Nexus and this could be a sweep. But Viper is a rat bastard, twitching on Prince as the Monkey King spins to win, shooting doo-doo in all directions as Prince shits the bed. Hanwha Life aces Prince in their own base. What a legendary fight! After taking Baron, they're looking to complete their comeback. The inhibitor is falling and Twitch engages once again, forcing Hybrid and Secret to run, but the Secret is out, and Hanwha Life will not be allowed to run this busted bot lane again. Doodoo pops a squat on Hybrid and HLE. Finish off game 2. In game 3, Hanwha Life is down in gold, but forced Aphelios to flash. With Rift in hand, they look to take bot tower. But Prince calls in the reinforcements to defend the bot tower. And Ornn TP's down into Tribush. Mickey is slowly moving the river, and it looks like Hanwha Life is doomed 5 versus 4. Ornn looks to knock up Ezreal, and oh, Mickey, you're so fun, you blow my mind. Hey, Mickey moves in with a shuffle, taking out Ezreal, killing Jarvan, and giving Hanwha Life the death sentence of the series. This one is all over after Aatrox, Rumble, and Yuumi go back in. GG, SP.
Hey, what's up everybody? It's Pykel with League of Items, and today we have a lot to get through. So let's not waste any time. We're going to do LPL LCK slate, and then we're going to do Europe. It's kind of annoying, the European slate kind of got downsized a little bit, which is insane considering they just ran like one of the biggest tournaments ever for League of Legends last Friday, and it filled early. Or actually, it didn't fill that early, but it did fill. So let's talk about LPL and the LCK. So on Draftkings tomorrow, actually, I guess I should say my picks yesterday went 0 for 4. That has never happened. I mean, that hasn't happened in forever. Actually, did I go 0 for 4? Let's check that real quick. I need to make sure that we're using the right information. So BLG lost to V5. I thought that V5 being a favorite was kind of surprising, but makes sense based off of what happened this split. JDG against JDG against RNG. I knew that RNG was a live dog. I said as much in the video yesterday. I was on JDG because I just assumed that they would pull it out. But looking back at it, I wish that I picked RNG because that is the kind of pick that I have typically made in this spot. I just didn't stick to it, and I have nobody to blame but myself. Get rid of that. LCK. Yesterday we had KT against Dynamics. I thought there was no way that KT would let a promotion team completely dominate them, but KT Rolster looked pretty horrible. They didn't play Smeb or Kuro, which I think was a gigantic mistake, especially in the first game of a split. That is like the easiest time to depend on your veterans to kind of just go even in most of the game and then make the right decision in the late game. They looked pretty bad. Team Dynamics, some interesting compositions. They played Yasuo. Good for them. Good victory. Hanwha Life against SP. I picked Hanwha Life. Hanwha Life in Game 2 looked better, but they were very close to getting swept. SPK Prince, pretty interesting. Mickey played well. I was on Mickey. So that's it for yesterday's games. Today's games, we have E-Star against LNG and FPX against World Elite. We have Damwon Gaming against Sandbox and DragonX against Genji. So let's look lane by lane. Naguri against Summit. I think most players will probably just think that Naguri is a significantly better player than Summit. I don't think that's the case. I think they're both very good top laners. They're both carry top laners, and this is a very volatile matchup. So this could really go either way. I don't see a huge advantage for either team here. In the jungle, Canyon and On Fleek, same thing. I don't think that either player is really a hard carry jungler that's going to be able to play Nidalee, Graves, Kindred, and dominate a game. I'm sure they're capable of playing the champion, but not at the levels that you need to succeed consistently on the pro level. In the mid lane, we have Showmaker and Dove. So I'm assuming Dove starts again because he started in their first matchup that they lost. Showmaker, I'm a pretty big fan of Showmaker. He did a challenge in the offseason where he tried to play every single champion in League of Legends one time and get to Challenger. I think that was the challenge. But that would be an extremely impressive feat if he was able to pull it off. I didn't find out if he was successful or not, but even attempting that just lets you know how good this guy is and how confident he is in his ability. Ghost against Root. Ghost took the starting job away from Nuclear last split and hasn't given it up. I think that Ghost and Root will both be the starters. I don't think there's a huge difference between the two because they're not like the best AD carries in Korea or anything like that, so we're really splitting hairs to pick between the two. I think that Ghost, if you look at the box scores, he will look better than Root because of the fact that Damwon Gaming wins more often than Sandbox, but I don't think there's a huge talent discrepancy there. And then Beryl, Hoyt, Gorilla, Cabby. So it should be Beryl and Gorilla, but it's tough to say. Fortunately, we will have these lineups before lock. If Gorilla is not playing, I would be pretty concerned because he is like the backbone of the macro for Sandbox, and that would just increase the volatility of this matchup further. So I think that the only captains that I would consider from this game are the mids and AD carries. I don't think that the junglers are really going to be a factor in the captain slot tonight from this game. In the second match, we have E-Star and LNG. So Xiaobai against Chenlun 17. I think that Chenlun 17 has a pretty large advantage in this matchup because Xiaobai plays a lot of Wukong. E-Star plays a lot of Wukong, and his main weakness are AP top laners. And Chenlun 17 is a AP top laner specialist. So if they don't take that into consideration when they're doing their preparation and getting their pick ban ready, they have the risk of looking very stupid. The one thing that I hope LNG doesn't do is take away Wukong to put Chenlun 17 on it, because I would much rather see him on an AP top laner. The fact that he has like a semi-unique style is something they should embrace. Wei against XX in the jungle. Neither are gigantic difference makers in my opinion. They both have played Graves in the past, but they're not like the best Graves players in the world. So I'm not overly interested in having them as my captain. That's that. E-Star against LNG in the mid lane, we have Fun Fun and Maple. So Fun Fun has been okay so far this split. Even in their losses, I think he's been scoring a lot. Maple, he is not the primary carry for this team. He will have individual games where he carries, but anybody can have one game where they carry in a series. The team is not looking to him to be the most important player on the team. Fun Fun is a little bit more important in that respect on his team, but both teams are really built around their bot lane. So we have Wink and Xiaoxi against Light, and most likely Duan. So Wink and Xiaoxi, they played really well last season, especially in the first half of the season when they were winning games. Xiaoxi, when he's on hook champions like Thresh and Blitzcrank, is pretty impressive. I think it's pretty overblown by the announcers. Like they go insane when he's on one of those champions, but he is a good player, and you have to respect his playmaking ability. So yeah, they're a good bot lane. Then we have Light and Duan. So Light did not have the starting position for a lot of last season. That was still Asura, but they must have seen enough from him in the off-season that made them feel comfortable making him their full-time AD carry, and he has done pretty well so far. He has gotten a lot of Aphelios games, so I think the best thing to do would be ban out Aphelios because the champion is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, anybody who watches League of Legends understands how ridiculous that champion is. And everybody has the same opportunity to select the champion. So if E-Star is blue side and picking first, maybe they leave up Aphelios and try to first pick it. But then you just open up a different can of worms where you let the other team basically try to counterpick Aphelios 5 times and then get a good AD carry matchup. Which doesn't mean that Aphelios it doesn't mean that the team with Aphelios is screwed over or anything. It just means that it's going to be more difficult for them to go absolutely insane, which seems to happen every time Aphelios is locked in. So I think this will be a tough game to get exposure to on the E-Star side because they are the most expensive team on the slate. I don't have a good feeling on what the public thinks about E-Star. The last time we saw them, they had the whole Smite fiasco. So maybe players will just have a bad taste in their mouth from that. So maybe this is an opportunity to get the most expensive team on the slate at an ownership discount. If they're in the teens, then I would be interested in E-Star. If they're in the high 20s, low 30s, then I'd probably prefer to be on LNG's side. But I do think LNG is going to be relatively popular because they are the underdog in a Chinese match, and they have a better record than E-Star. I think long term, E-Star will most likely be the better team, but only time will tell. Next up, we have FPX and World Elite. So in the top lane, we have Khan and Morgan. They're both carry top laners from Korea. Khan has really embraced being a carry in the LPL more than Morgan. A lot of the time, Morgan may get a champion that can theoretically carry, but ends up going even in lane or losing, and then doesn't look great. I do like Morgan as a player, and he played well in their last match, but he is not significantly better than Khan by any stretch of the imagination. The opposite is actually much more likely to be true. Khan had a ridiculous buyout for his contract from T1 to go to FPX, and I think now he's finally starting to show that he's worth the money. Even though last split was pretty brutal for him, he didn't get to play a lot. But they're learning how to play around him now, and FPX will only get better as time goes on with Khan as their top laner. Tian and Beishang, I think they're both pretty good. They're both very good junglers. I think that they can compete with most junglers in the world. Beishang has been impressive considering the talent level of his team compared to a lot of the other teams in the LPL. I know that on the solo queue ladder, he's kind of like an Echo one-trick and is very good at the champion. Doesn't play it as much in professional play, but he's a very good player, and his team will rely on him tonight to make big plays and to just keep them close. So if they go even in the early game and the mid game, it's going to be because of Beishang. If they lose the earlier mid game, it's probably not going to be his fault. And if they completely snowball in the early and mid game, he will almost definitely be involved. In the mid lane, we have Duanbi and Teacherma. Duanbi is significantly better than Teacherma. They have a very similar champion pool in the fact that they play a lot of the same champions, but Teacherma only plays those champions. Duanbi can play almost anything. So I think there's a gigantic advantage in the champion pool in the mid lane. The only problem that I could see is FPX doesn't end up trying to ban out Teacherma because they're also champions that Duanby likes to play. But I think the best case scenario is to force Teachermont onto something that he's not very good at, and then counterpick it. So if Worldly is red side game, if Worldly is red side, I think they will consider last picking their mid laner, which would give Fun Plus Phoenix 5 opportunities to ban out his champion pool. So that's pretty scary. In the bot lane, we have LWX and Crisp against Jiaomeng and Missing. I think both bot lanes are pretty good. Jiaomeng is often spoon-fed by his team, and that's what we want for Draftkings. I think that Jiaomeng will be one of the highest-owned 80 carries on the slate because he is the underdog in China, and players want to play Jiaomeng. So I think that he will be owned significantly higher than his winning chances, which is potentially a spot to fade. But if you fade it and he goes off, you're dead. Last up, we have DragonX and Gen.G. Doran and Rascal are in the top lane. Not a huge fan of either player. They're not the difference makers on their team. If they have a good DraftKings performance, yes, it's possible if there's a sweep. But I think this series probably goes 2-1. Piosik against Klid, two of the best junglers in the world. Very good players. Very interesting champion pools. They're not the quintessential Kindred, Graves, Nidalee players. At least they haven't been so far. Let's take a look at their recent champion pools from the mid-season cup. All right, so Klid was playing Kindred, I think, a long time ago, before the buffs even really started to impact the jungle. So we see Graves and Kindred, but he lost both of those matches in the Mid-Season Cup against Top Esports. Then we have Piosik. I think Piosik was also playing Kindred a long time ago. I guess they just changed their name recently. So we have a Graves game. We should have a Kindred game in here somewhere. Yeah, Kindred game down here. So they have been willing to play it, but they, in like these high pressure situations, look, they're playing Trundle pretty often. They're banning out Kindred on blue side. They're getting Graves banned against them, so the teams must think that they're willing to play it and able to play it well. You know, that'll be interesting. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. If we see Nidalee and Graves both left up and the champions are traded, then there's not going to be a huge advantage for either side. So that will be pretty interesting to watch tonight, to see which junglers actually get left in, which ones get banned in the pick ban phase. In the mid lane, we have Chovy and BDD. They're two of the best mid laners in Korea, which also makes them two of the best mid laners in the world. There is not a gigantic advantage either way. Like I said, on the DFS Bachelor video, I think they were like first and second in MVP voting last split. So they're both very good. I expect some very fun League of Legends in this matchup. I think it'll be a great match to watch, regardless of who you pick in DraftKings. And then we have Deft and Keria against Ruler and probably Life. But Gen.G is a sub-risk in the support spot. Life and Kellen do have different champion pools, and they will swap between the players in a series, I believe. So I would not take one of their supports tonight. Even if I think they win, the chances of the support being the difference is relatively low. And if it is, you just have to be able to live with the fact that, like, you don't know which one is going to play. Life is more likely to play, but I would hate to have my lineup tanked because at 6:30 in the morning, I get a notification saying that they're switching the starting support. I just don't want to be in that situation, so I'm most likely going to fade both of those players. In terms of bets, like I said, I will not be giving out my pick on the videos anymore. In order to get access to my picks, you have to join Patreon. I have a channel in my Discord that gives out the picks that I would consider betting in real life. and I will generally tell people whether or not I actually end up betting it. These are my picks. I do pick every single game, but I don't necessarily bet every single game unless there is value there. So first up, E-Star against LNG, 58% to 49%. I think that LNG does have a pretty good argument for being the favorite in this match, so there is value. I put no value. There is value on LNG. I think that LNG, if this line came out and LNG was like a minus 140 or minus 150 favorite, it might feel weird to see at first because going into the season, E-Star was supposed to be the significantly better team. But LNG has looked pretty good in their matches, and they have a potential mismatch in the top lane. So that is a good spot tonight. I think that if you are willing to bet on underdogs and lay that kind of money, this is a value bet opportunity. I don't know if I necessarily think that LNG will win, but it is probably a good bet regardless of what I think their chances to win the series are. I think there is a difference between their actual winning chances and the line. Or at least what the line should be. That's what I should say. What the line should be. Okay, so FPX against World Elite. I think that there is no value on this line because the sportsbook does not want to give bettors an opportunity to pick Fun Plus Phoenix. I am not surprised that it's 170, 170, 100 to win 170, because they're doing everything they can to get people to bet on World Elite. Two teams with the same kind of play style. One of them is the ex-world champion. It's not World Elite. So, yeah. I will not bet on this game. I will consider picking World Elite. But, you know, it's tough. It's tough to give it a definitive answer before we know the lineups as well. The lineups haven't come out. I don't expect there to be any crazy roster decisions, but it's always better to wait until we have that. In the LCK, Damwon Gaming Sandbox, Damwon Gaming 73% favorite against Sandbox's 33% dog. No value here. I'm not betting on it. Dragon X against Gen G, 122 to 106. You know, I do think this is basically a 50-50 matchup, so I would not bet on this either. I don't think there's any value. Trying to figure out which team you like better is an interesting exercise based off of the previous information we have from these teams in last season, last split, as well as the mid-season cup. Both teams looked good at points in the group stage, but then I think it was Dragon X who completely crapped themselves. All they had to do was win like 1 out of 3 games, and they lost all 3 games, which was pretty upsetting, I'm sure, for them. But yeah, very, very even in terms of talent. If Dragon X doesn't beat T1, I'd be interested to see in what this line would be. But I think the fact that they just beat T1, maybe there's a little extra juice on the Dragon X side, and maybe that makes Gen G a small value opportunity, but I doubt it. Okay, so that's enough for LPL LCK. Let's take a look at Europe. So in Europe, how did I do in Europe last week? In Europe, I went 8-7, and I started off pretty horribly. I was 2-5, and then I went 6-2. So I do think that I was unlucky in a couple of these spots on the first day, but let's take a look at what's happening this weekend. Rogue against Vitality. Vitality has been much better than people thought they would be. Is that the right line? Plus 171? What did I have? Oh, 117. All right. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So Vitality did look good last week. But so did Rogue. I think it's more likely what we saw last week out of Rogue is which ends up becoming their like consistent play style, and I think that they will be good for this season. They're definitely one of the top 6 teams in Europe. Vitality is contesting for that kind of position right now. If they're able to beat Rogue, maybe I change my mind. But I think it's pretty unlikely that Vitality wins this match. And again, these are best of ones, so anything can happen in one game. Vitality has had some pretty interesting drafts. Let's take a look. Nope. There we go. I hate when ads load and like it jumps to your mouse. That's so annoying. So Vitality against G2. They picked Scion, Gragas, Jace, Callista, Thresh. Interesting. They're a little over. There's a little bit too much physical damage on their team, but they were able to pull off the composition, so good for them. Vitality. They should have more games than that. Oh, Vitality against Schalke. So they beat Schalke as well. Which, that was a very good draft from them. Ornn, Skarner, Azir, Ezreal, Yumi. That was a very good draft. Good for them. Against Fnatic, they lost. They had Renekton, Jarvan, Azir, Aphelios, Thresh. So nothing crazy there. I think that Fnatic is just a better team than Vitality, obviously. It's not surprising that they lost in that situation, so that doesn't make me think any less of them. I do like their drafts, which is something to take into consideration. Rogue against XL. XL is a garbage team. They destroyed XL. Rogue against Misfits. So they beat Misfits. I like Misfits a lot. This is a pretty impressive victory. I do like the Gangplank pick, and I think that it shows a lot about their ability, their top laner's ability to play carry champions. So I do like that. I think Finn's pretty good. Against Schalke, they played Gangplank again. Orianna is a good champion. They played Orianna 2 out of 3 games. So I think they have a pretty good read on the meta. Orianna is not a champion that a lot of the public would have thought was going to be popular. But, some of us, we think about the game a little bit more deeply. We read the patch notes. We understand, what kind of mid laners work in pro play. And then we predict it. And then we look really smart. I don't know about you. Someone on this channel may have done that. I'm not positive, but probably said something along those lines. I get a lot of flack from people when I start bringing up champions that I think are going to end up popping up in the meta, and then I'm right about it, and then they hate me for it. It's tragic. It's tragic. These people are talking about Ardent Sensor like I haven't been talking about Ardent Sensor for 5 years. And even after the nerf, it was still an amazing item. It's just people always think once something gets nerfed, it's unplayable, which is not true at all. Their goal is to make it fair, not horrible. It's just they didn't nerf the playstyle that it enables. They just nerfed the item. But I digress. Let's go on to the next match. So Vitality is interesting. I'm not going to lie. I would like them to be a little bit of a bigger dog, though. I think these numbers are pretty accurate. Misfits against SK. Misfits, one of my favorite teams in Europe. SK has not looked great so far this split, but I believe they did win at least one of their matches last week. They won 2 of their matches. So SK beat Origin. This was on day 1. Origin had to fire one of their coaches right before the season started. If I knew that, I probably would have been on SK, but I was not. SK against Schalke. I thought that Schalke was just going to be a much better team than SK Gaming and that their talent would win out. But that's not what happened. Genax has played a few good games. Trick is an interesting jungler on this patch. I think that he does fit it pretty well, even though he's been playing stupid champions Set jungle. I think it's just a bad choice that's somewhat popular in Europe right now. They played it twice. That is bad. It is a good overpowered champion, but it's just there are so many better junglers out there right now. No reason to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Nidalee out of him this weekend, and that's what I want to see from SK Gaming. So that is good for them. Zazie, Crown Shot, and Limit. I mean, they're mid laners and bot laners. They're pretty generic. Not going to be a huge advantage in that role. So I do think that SK has looked pretty good in 2 of their matches, but I think that if I told you SK loses all 3 matches, or 2 matches or 3 matches, however many they're playing this weekend, would you be that surprised? I don't think so. So not a lot of value on this either. I think it's pretty accurate. G2 against Schalke. G2 has 2 losses already. They have not looked good. And I don't want to make excuses for why they haven't looked good. Especially since they won their first game of the split. But, Perks' father just passed away. I don't know how much that's impacting him. I don't want to try to explain away their losses. Maybe they're just not playing well right now. But, when somebody's in that situation, you can't help but think it has something to do with their performance. Yeah, it's tough to say. So they beat Mad Lions. That was a good game. They lost to Origin. Origin's a good team. Like you can't fault them for losing a macro game to Origin. That's kind of how they roll. Losing to Vitality though is kind of concerning. They put caps onto Galio, which is not a carry champion. I would not like that to happen in the future. I think if they played it more of a traditional game where they have caps on a carry, perks on a carry, and then just drafted more aggressively, I think that would have been much better against Vitality. But Vitality did play pretty well that game, and they showed up to the fights that they needed to win, and they were able to win it. So I think you have to give more credit to Vitality than take away credit from G2 and their ability as a team. Everyone still expects them to be the best team in Europe, and I will bet on them in some of their matchups in the future, because they're going to have some value on them when they're playing against another good team. In this spot, they're minus 667. That's an 87% favorite. That is not the right line. That has to be lower. 192. Oh, no. Plus 440. Yeah, so if you believe that G2 is bad, go ahead. Bet on Schalke. I'm not betting against G2. Origin against XL. So we have 370 and plus 260. I wonder why my lines are wrong. Maybe they switched since the last time I looked at this. Minus 216, 217, and 146. I have 164. Maybe I just did a horrible job typing. Who knows? Origin against XL. Origin is a good macro team. I don't see XL beating them. I'm not going to spend much more time on that one. Not a lot of value on XL. I think I think 70-30 is really the highest I'm willing to go on a favorite. So if XL was like a 20% chance to win this game, maybe I would throw a bet on it, but it's very unlikely. I'm more likely to put like a small, I might make one lineup on Draftkings with XL in it, and I would have higher upside than the bet that I make on the sportsbook. Fnatic against Mad. This should be a good matchup. Let's take a look at this one a little bit more closely. So Fnatic, they looked very good against Misfits. It was very impressive that they were able to come back and win that game. But we already knew Fnatic was one of the best teams in Europe. Their game against Vitality, this was kind of just expected. It looks a little bit better after Vitality beats G2, but I think that the thought of, it's just Vitality, no big deal, I think that's more accurate. Last game, Fnatic against XL. XL's bad. They beat them pretty easily. So that's basically it for this weekend. The contests for Europe are smaller than they usually are, which is pretty concerning. But that's all I have for you today. If you want to support the channel, go check out my Patreon page. If you want access to my picks, check out the Patreon page. I post them in Discord. I do have sheets that I kind of go through with all of the people that are in the Discord server. So basically, it just gives you like lineup construction ideas, and you can like swap around teams and see what different kind of options there are to stack 2 different teams together. I think it's very useful. Everybody seems to like it. But really, I can't stress this enough. When you're supporting me on Patreon, it's really to support the channel and to like help me do this. To continue to do this. So I appreciate all of the donations and the support. But if you're looking at this as some way to like buy a product. Like, you're not really buying a product. It's really just about supporting me and supporting the channel. And for those of you who do support, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. For those of you considering to support, thank you for considering it, because it does mean a lot to me. That being said, if you want to see the sheet in person, I'm going to have a lineup builder tonight around 10 or 11 o'clock, depending on how other things go today, where I will be going through the sheet with my patrons and talking about different lineup combinations at work, talking about ownership, reviewing the ownership from yesterday probably. I think that's going to be something we do tonight, because now we have two slates of data that we can look at for ownership information. But again, thanks for watching very much. I love how much the channel has grown. If you can help me grow it even further by retweeting, I would appreciate that a lot. It takes just as much time as a like, and it's a lot more beneficial. If you want to throw up my videos on Reddit, that would also be extremely helpful. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.